Hello viewers, we welcome you to yet another interesting episode of the program Everything Catholic, where we discuss everything and anything about the Catholic Church. We are glad to have you join us for yet another episode, and I am Reverend Father Silvanus Ame. With me in the studio as usual to anchor this program is
Reverend Father Boniface Nebo.
Today, dear brothers and sisters, we'll be talking about the marks of the church and the hierarchy of the church, still continuing our discussion on the creed, which is a discussion we've been having for some weeks now. And we have in the studio with us a very distinguished guest to help talk about this topic and throw a lot of light on it. In the studio with us is Reverend Monsignor Michael Sasa. Monsignor Sasa was one-time rector of the prestigious SS Peter and Paul Major Seminary, Bodija, Ibadan. He was that for 6 years. He was also a lecturer in St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary, the great St. Thomas Aquinas of Makurdi, for 8 years. And currently, Monsignor Sasa is the head of Department of Philosophy, Veritas University of Nigeria, Abuja. Monsignor, we are most pleased to have you join us.
Welcome, Monsignor.
Thank you.
So, we just delve straight into the discussion for the day, the marks and the hierarchy of the church. Monsignor, in the creed, we profess belief in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And these have been given as the essential marks or the characteristics of the church by which she is known. I'd like to ask, how did these marks come about? How were they formulated? How did they come by these 4 marks of the church?
These are technical terms.
Okay.
Very, very technical. The church did not create these for herself. No.
Good.
Okay.
It was Christ himself, through the Holy Spirit, who bestowed these on his church.
Okay.
So you talk of the church being one, the church being holy, the church being Catholic, the church being apostolic. These are 4 terms that are so technically used, and you could see them, filtrating through the teachings, even of Christ himself.
Okay.
So it is not the church bringing up these characteristics of the church. No, it's Jesus himself. We'll be seeing them as we go ahead anyway.
It's all right then. So let's talk about the oneness of the church. Let's pick up from there. Well, to say the church is one, yes, speaks of unity. And we would like to ask, what really does it mean to say that the church is one? What kind of unity are we referring to? Is it unity of faith? Is it unity of doctrines? Is it the unity of all Christians? What exactly are we talking about? How do we understand this unity in relation also to the existence of other ecclesial bodies?
Well, unity in this sense is a profession of one faith.
So we are talking of unity of faith.
Unity of faith in the church.
Okay.
It is received from the apostles, passed from Christ through the apostles to the present day. Profession of faith. Now we have common celebration of divine worship, especially of the sacraments.
Okay.
All this also points to the unity
of the church.
Okay.
Now we have apostolic succession through the sacrament of Holy Order.
That's right.
Unity of the church.
Okay.
Now you will see then that from Peter, and from Jesus himself to Peter, who is the rock on which Christ himself built his church. Now, through him to the bishops anywhere in the world, you could see that lineage. It is a link. And that link goes back to Christ himself. So we're talking of the oneness of the church. Now, there is no bishop, nobody can make himself a bishop in the Catholic Church. No. He has to be ordained. He has to be commissioned.
Yeah.
As Jesus commissioned the apostles. Okay, so you're talking of the unity of the church. The sole church that Christ himself established and entrusted to Peter for his pastoral care and to the other apostles is exactly what we have to in Nigeria even.
Okay.
Every bishop takes part, yes, in this unity of the church. And you can see us all linked to. You know, I like the way the Germans put it. It's captures it for me.
Okay.
I put
How?
others too. They talk of alle Wege führen nach Rom. Yes, all roads lead to Rome.
Okay, interesting.
All roads lead to Rome. Okay.
So wherever you are in the world, you'll find a way to Rome.
United in one faith in Rome.
United in one faith.
Okay.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, Father.
You're
Now,
welcome.
you know, looking back through history,
Monsignor.
particularly in 1517,
Yes.
there was a great hit at, you know, this unity of the church, this oneness of the church, with the effect of the birth of Lutheranism. That is Martin Luther and all of those schisms that came about. Now, this is a big blow on the unity of the church. Can we really talk of this unity in terms of faith, in terms of doctrine? Because obviously we are seeing proliferations all around. And in relation to Christ's own prayer, which is like his last desire before his departure from the
That
earth,
they may be
that
one.
all may be one. So what are the problems, therefore, that this unity of faith is suffering in the Church of Christ? And you may relate it to the split in doctrines as well. Thank you, Father.
Like I told you, these terms are technical.
That's right. That's right.
For me, the unity of the church is not affected.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You're talking of human factors.
Human
Okay.
factors. Interesting.
Now, that Luther broke off the church's unity is intact. If you look at that from the point of view of profession of faith,
Okay.
which we still profess till today, regardless of his own getting away from the body,
Yes.
we profess still the same thing.
Okay.
It is obviously inseparably linked and tied to our Catholicity, which is the universality of the church. And we see this playing out in a very special way when priests and religious go on missions to foreign lands. But now let's leave other ecclesial bodies and come within the church. Recently, during the last synod on the Amazon, to a large extent it focused on the matter of shortage of priests, ordained priests for those regions. And then there were proposals for married men to be ordained into the Catholic priesthood, married men of integrity who have been faithful to the church and proven and distinguished themselves. But then there were other very strong arguments from other quarters, asking rather for missionaries to be sent from where there is, quote and unquote, an abundance of vocation, citing Africa and and Asia as examples. And we didn't see that going too well with some persons accepting that kind of proposal. Let's use another example. The case of our diocese here in Nigeria, Ahira, where they rejected a bishop that was appointed for them on the grounds that he's not a son of the place. Looking at all of these in context, in the context of the unity and the Catholicity of the church, supposing your opinion was sought by the Holy Father in all of these matters, what would it have been?
Well, there are, like I told you, these terms are technical. I will always say that.
Fall back to that.
Yes, I will fall back to that. You talk of the universality of the church. If you want to see, look at it technically, it's in two terms.
Okay.
Two ways.
Okay, we'll see.
You're talking of the sense of totality.
Okay.
Totality. Then you're also talking of universality in keeping with the whole. These are the technical sides of that term, universality.
Okay.
The church is Catholic because Christ is present in her.
Okay.
Christ came for all men.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He came for all, regardless of wherever anybody may belong. As I told you, he came for all. So the universal perspective of Christ's own mission is very, very important in this case. Okay, you talk of universality from that point of view, and you talk of Catholicism from that point of view. Now, wherever Christ is, there is the Catholic Church. Okay. Now, the church is Catholic because she's sent out to the whole world. That's part of her characteristic as Catholicism, Catholicity, the Catholicity of the church, and then of course the universal nature of the church. Now, each group united, you talk of even the parishes, for example. Once a parish is united with the pastor, Christ is there.
Okay.
That parish united with the bishop of the diocese, Christ is there. And the diocese united with the universal church.
Okay, before you go into that, Monsignor, we'll just go for a very short break, and when we come back, we shall pick up from these points you are just going to introduce now. Don't go away, stay with us. It is still the program, Everything Catholic.
Everything Catholic, a program that discusses anything and everything about the Catholic Church, faith, doctrines, morals, canon law, church governance, papal documents, you name it. As long as it is Catholic, it shall be discussed. Join Father Ahmed Silvanus and Father Nebo Boniface, two priests passionate about teaching the true faith of the Catholic Church, as their hosts bishops, priests, religious and distinguished laymen and women to discuss and simplify the wealth of the Church's teachings. Everything Catholic, showing on Catholic television, CTV. Everything Catholic, teaching the faith.
Welcome back. It's still the program, Everything Catholic. And we still have Monsignor Sasa with us in the studio to discuss the marks of the church and the hierarchy of the church. And just before the break, Monsignor was going to speak to us about the issue of people rejecting a bishop sent to them as it affects the Catholicity and the unity of the church. So, Monsignor, you could just pick up from there, please.
Yes. You can group that, put that under the human factor of the church. Human factor of the church. The Pope has made his own appointment. That is valid. Okay. Now, some people say they don't want him. If you look at it technically, Christ himself says, if you accept me, it is not me you are accepting.
The one who sent
You are accepting the one who sent me. Okay. Now, I think we are the group that made that, well, they are acting under human factor. And we still have to deal with that. In fact, world over. Now, but you look at it from this point of view. Earlier on, the early part of our history as a church, we had white men who came all the way from either Ireland or wherever, and they were bishops here.
Yes.
And we accepted them. We worked happily with them until they left, one after the other. We were happy with them. Now, one of our own, from here, from among us, we are saying no. You see, it's a logic we need to review. Part of our human factor. Yeah, it's a logic we need to review.
Of the church.
Of the church.
Well, we may want to understand what the word hierarchy means, and within the church, what are these hierarchies? In very simple terms, please.
Well, very simple terms, not going too technical. Simple is the various levels.
Very necessary.
The various levels of administration.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what within the church constitutes the hierarchy of the church?
Well,
By division or structuring? Then briefly.
Well, there's a structure of service.
Okay.
Structure of service. Because leadership is service.
Sure.
Okay, so you move therefore from the laity to the priest, the bishop, cardinals. We like it or not today, they occupy an administrative position, very, very important in the church. And then, of course, the Pope.
At the head of this structure, which you've just mentioned, then is the Pope. And when we talk about the hierarchy of the church, one thing we cannot fail to mention is papal infallibility. What exactly does this mean, and what are the implications for the members of the church, both clergy and laity?
You know, let me start from some error, some misunderstanding that some people have about infallibility.
All right then.
They think the Pope, as a human being, cannot make mistakes. No, that's not true. But the Pope cannot make a mistake when it comes to matters of the church that has its own system of arrival. You see, before the Pope arrives at something, there has been consultations along the line, a procedure. By the time it comes out, it is a sound stand of the church,
Particularly
of faith and morals.
So when we say the Pope is infallible, we are not referring to the Pope as a person, we are referring to the office.
But in his person is the church. You see, it's a little bit complicated.
Okay.
You cannot remove him from that whole structure and understanding. Even as a person. Even as a person. It's like talking of Christ. In Christ is the church. He stands his own. In fact, Christ is the symbol of the church. As the Pope is the symbol of the church, humanly speaking, on earth here.
Because he's vicar of Christ.
The vicar of Christ.
So to put it very simply for anybody to understand without much difficulty, when we say the Pope is infallible, the Pope cannot err, exactly what are we saying? That the Pope cannot make mistakes, or that when the Pope is in consultation with other organs of the church and then he's making a pronouncement, that pronouncement cannot be in error?
You know, since we say we should go to the grassroots,
Yes.
let's go to the grassroots. When the papa of a family comes out to say, for example, I remember when we were young, Papa used to tell us, you don't shout in the afternoon.
That's a new one.
Don't shout in the afternoon. Because you shout in the afternoon, the gods may not favor you. So that put fear in us. But then later, we got to discover that Papa, when he returned from the farm, he needed rest.
So he didn't want disturbance.
Exactly. He needed to sleep to be able to wake up again as a whole the following day to go to farm and fetch us food. So without that rest, he cannot muster enough energy for the following day's job.
Okay.
All right. So these were fables, some stories that were gathered, but we children will not understand the technicality of that. If it is just, say, Papa is sleeping, we can afford to do many things, you know, play pranks and so on. But when it comes to gods, I mean, you will shrink. Now, when you're talking of, you know, such technical terms brought to the grassroots, you can't avoid infiltration of some technical things that the words are just precise. You oversimplify, you run the risk of misunderstanding.
And the meaning may be lost.
And the meaning may be lost.
Interesting.
Okay, thank you very much, Father. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Still on our discussion today concerning the marks of the church.
Yes.
We say the church is holy.
Holy.
We also know that, well, by structuring, we have the church triumphant, the militant as well. Okay, then the church suffering. Now, the holiness of the church, upon which is it defined? Because absolutely, we here are of, you know, sinners struggling to become triumphant, become members of the church triumphant, that is the saints in heaven. So by our own understanding here, because a lot of impurities are seen in the church and even by the members of the church and of the members of the church. So how will you simplify this understanding that holiness of the church is a mark of the church? And upon which is this?
I'm back again to my starting point. It will continue to reoccur. It's technical. Okay.
The marks of the church are technical.
All technical. Exactly.
All right.
Now, when you talk of the holiness of the church does not come of her own. No.
Yes.
It's a product of Christ himself. He established the church. We all believe Christ is holy.
So it's founded.
God is holy.
Christ.
Holiness of Christ.
Foundation. Fine.
So the church is holy because carries within her the mark of Christ who is holy, the mark of God who is holy. Now, besides, still talking of technicality of this term, we use a term like the holy people of God.
Good.
The holy people of God.
Chosen by him.
Exactly, and you're referring to the church, the holy people of God. These are people when assembled in the name of Christ are holy.
Okay, Monsignor, we will take one last question since we don't have much time anymore.
Yes.
And still on this subject of the holiness of the church, and we'll wrap up there. We say the church is holy, no doubt. And then the church has the divine and the human elements all present together,
Exactly.
just like the two natures of Christ, the divine and the human natures of Christ. And I would like to ask a question, therefore, what does the effects of the, what effects rather does the fault of the members of the church have on the holiness of the church, if any? We'll just take that very briefly so that we wrap up.
Father Boniface has given it a kickoff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
when
we'll
he
continue rolling it.
mentioned the fact that the people of the church, you find limitations among us.
So what if
We are limited because we are not God. God has the fullness of holiness and perfection. We are striving towards him. So we are all moving towards God. There's a term often used, Christ came down so that he can bring us up to the divine level.
So does it mean, therefore, that this church, though holy, is also in need of purification?
Purification, that term is too strong. Purification, okay, yes, if you say it from the point of view of Christ's grace, purifying us so that we can become
better,
who we should be. Okay, because we should be like God. That's our struggle. We should move towards him.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Now, but please don't end it just that way. Don't end it that way because of those who are hearing us, who are listening to us and want to hear us and share from us. Still talking of this holiness. There is imperfection found among us. Yes. Well, perhaps it's expected because of our limited nature. Okay. But don't forget that it is like the story of one who is going to the market, all right, and it's raining. He falls. And he says, no, I'm hungry. I need to go and buy food. He stands up. He falls again. He stands up. He falls again. He will arrive at the market.
But it's making progress.
He's making progress. No matter how slow it may be, he will get to the market. As against somebody who falls and say, look, there's no point going again because it's still raining. And the ground is very slippery. It's better to remain where I am.
Irrespective of the faults, the limitations of the members of the church, we still keep striving towards
perfection.
All right, we'll leave it on that note for today, and that's the much we can take on the program Everything Catholic. We've had with us Monsignor Michael Sasa, a very distinguished person in the Catholic Church and academician, and we thank you for coming for this program. Thank you very much, Monsignor.
Thank you.
Dear brothers and sisters, that's all we can take today. The program remains Everything Catholic. I am Father Silvanus Ame, and I encourage you to please join us same time, same station next week. God bless you.
God bless you, and do stay safe always.
Yeah.